In the evening, someone threw me on the bed. His tone was flat and dangerous. Wife. You were quite popular in high school. He paused and then chuckled softly. Still a female playgirl. Help. Who exposed my past? Listen to my explanation. Calm down. I am Ethan's so-called white moonlight. After graduating from high school entrance examination, he confessed his love and pursued me for several months. Still, I rejected him. At the class reunion, his little girlfriend was full of hostility towards me. I couldn't help but sneer. What I didn't care for back then, how could I possibly care for it now? Engaging in female rivalry? Totally unnecessary. Sis is a married woman. When I received an invitation to the high school reunion, I was walking my dog in the garden. I am not a person who particularly misses the past. When I was about to pretend not to see it, someone in the group directly me. I thought for a while. Since I had nothing to do at home anyway, I replied with an emoji of, later. Someone said that family members could be brought along. I didn't reply. After all, my unlucky husband is busier than a flight attendant. He is either in the air or on the way to fly. I lowered my head and sent him a message. Locked the screen. Vigorously rubbed the little golden retriever's head. And continued humming and walking the dog. After about an hour, I was lying limp on the sofa with my little golden retriever in my arms. Walking the dog is already very tiring. I am also very awesome today. I opened my phone. And my unlucky husband had replied, I will return to the country tomorrow. You go there first. Send me the address. I will go there after getting off the plane. I smacked my lips. This message is as aloof as he is. Every time I see him in the guise of a high cold elite, it always stimulates me to want to see the most real side under the skin. But this thought has never been put into practice. He is like a delicate and charming rose. If not careful, it will hurt oneself instead. Madame, the gentleman said that the clothes prepared for you are placed in the bedroom. There will be a stylist coming over at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I nodded and immediately went to the bedroom. I have to say, except in bed, this jerk man is really so meticulous that it's impeccable. I put on the clothes and looked at myself in the mirror. Who is this beautiful woman? He is the one who has climbed high. The skirt is milky blue and very low-key. Except for a little exposed part on the back waist, which is a little sexy. Other places are tightly covered. At a glance, it's picked by my unlucky husband himself. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I got up and had my styling done. I arrived at the private room on time. Why on time? Just a habit from high school. Pushing open the door of the private room, I put on a formulaic smile. Long time no see. Everyone. Wow. Zoe is even more beautiful. Come in quickly. The organizer of the party is the monitor. He stood up and greeted me to sit in my seat. Next to me is my high school desk mate. We quickly started chatting and laughing. Sorry. I'm late. Pushing the door open came a handsome face. Ethan. I quickly lowered my head. Help. So embarrassing. According to what his good friend said, Ethan had a crush on me for 2 years. After the college entrance examination, he confessed to me. After being rejected by me, he pursued me for several months. Still, I resolutely rejected him. I am really sorry. Although I am almost pathologically a face-gone, but I belong to the type who decides at first sight. Ethan is indeed very handsome, but I really have no spark with him. Zoe. Ethan has brought his girlfriend. Annie whispered in my ear and muttered another sentence. Is it my illusion? Why do I feel that his girlfriend is so much like you? I pulled my thoughts back and looked up. I was instantly stunned. Damn. This girl is almost the same as me in height, body shape, and appearance. Looking at her greeting everyone with a smile. I even feel that her personality is very similar to mine. If I could not be sure that my parents only have me as a daughter, I would really suspect that I have a younger sister. This is sisters Oli. Right? I nodded slightly and smiled at her. From the moment he entered the door, I could feel Ethan's unignorable gaze. Really unable to bear it anymore, I took the initiative to speak. Long time no see. Ethan stared at me directly. The obscure emotions rolling in his eyes almost drowned me. I shifted my gaze. After a while, I heard his deep voice. Long time no see. Zoe. I remained expressionless, but roared inside. Dude. What are you doing? Why are the last two words so ambiguous and gentle? Your girlfriend is still by your side. Don't mess with me. I am a married woman. Looking up again. Sure enough. Ethan's girlfriend's eyes seemed to want to eat me up. She took Ethan's arm and leaned slightly against his chest, as if declaring sovereignty. Her tone was affectionate. Ethan. Let's go sit over there. Thank goodness. These two big Buddhas are finally gone. There are more and more people in the private room. The reunion of old classmates after a long separation is gradually becoming lively. After several rounds of drinking, everyone started playing Truth or Dare. I had a bit of a headache from drinking and didn't participate. Annie accompanied me by the side and didn't go play either. I closed my eyes and rested for a while. Then I went out of the private room to get some air. Blown by the cold wind, I shivered and became a bit more awake. Sisters Owie. Ithon is already with me. I glanced at her inexplicably and casually said, well, I know. Congratulations. Wish you an early birth of a precious child. But suddenly, as if stimulated, her voice suddenly rose. So, Zoe, can you stop pestering him? You two have long ended. My head was dizzy. Looking at her emotionally agitated and ferocious face, I couldn't help but think. How could I think she is like me? I rubbed my temples and slowly said, which of your eyes saw me pestering him? She was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Her momentum suddenly weakened. But she still stubbornly said, then why has he been looking at you all day? It must be you. The rest of the words were mumbled. I didn't hear clearly, but I could guess it wasn't anything good. The irritability brought by the headache made me not give her a good look. Sister, do you think that if I were interested in him, would it be your turn? We have no past. We have never started. How can you think that if I didn't like him before, I can like him now? Is he the only man in the world? After saying that, I lifted my foot and walked towards the private room. Then I turned around. You don't need to engage in this kind of female competition. Don't make yourself too humble. Back in the private room, Annie came over. Why did it take so long? Are you okay? I shook my head and leaned on Annie to take a nap. In a daze, it seemed that the door of the private room opened again. I slightly opened my eyes and saw a tall figure standing in front of me. Why did you drink so much? A low voice came, seemingly with a hint of helplessness. Subsequently, I fell into an embrace. A faint pine fragrance was mixed with a trace of a dusty. I became a little more awake and leaned against him at ease. As if ingratiating myself, I rubbed against him. A sigh came from my ear, and my earlobe was gently pinched. Zoe, is this your boyfriend? The first one to run over and asked was the monitor, who was drunk. I sat up straight and felt a little embarrassed belatedly. I coughed gently. Yes. Suddenly, my lower back was hugged. A familiar voice came from my ear. Hello. I am Zoe's husband. My name is Chase. For a moment, the private room became noisy. Zoe is actually married. That's not enough. You didn't tell us. You hid such a handsome husband. Everyone was laughing and joking. We got the marriage certificate first and haven't held the wedding yet. We will definitely invite everyone. None of your wedding gifts can escape. When everyone was laughing, an abrupt voice sounded. When did you get married? Zoe. Low and unable to hide the loneliness. My heart tight and inexplicably still, I answered. 3 months ago. Ethan smiled gently. But somehow it still felt that the smile couldn't hide the bitterness and helplessness. His girlfriend Jenny behind him was even paler. Indeed. This made the previous declaration of sovereignty seem like a joke. I looked up at Chase's face. His eyes were still indifferent. But there seemed to be something different, making people feel inexplicably dangerous. I lowered my head a little guiltily. Come on. Come on. Let's continue playing games with us. Whoever loses drinks. Zoe and your boyfriend come over. The more people, the merrier. Yes. Yes. Continue playing. Seeing that the situation was wrong, everyone began to adjust the atmosphere. I glanced at Chase. He nodded slightly. So we went over together. As soon as I sat down, I felt a patch of exposed skin on my lower back, where my skirt was exposed being stroked gently. I trembled and turned to glare at Chase. But he smiled at me as if nothing had happened. However, why does it feel so terrifying? I am really a black hole in games. I lose at whatever I play. Most of the wine went into Chase's stomach. But I was still dizzy from drinking. Chase and Deeth, and seemed to be at odds with each other. Neither would give in to the other. The seemingly harmonious atmosphere was actually full of tension. I looked up and was about to persuade them. I leaned close to Chase's ear. Chase. This is just a game. Don't be so serious. Okay? I swear I was just trying to persuade him. But it seemed to have a different meaning in Chase's ears. He sneered and pinched my waist. Okay, Why? Why is it even more intense? Forget it. I'll just pretend to be dead by lying on him. Pretending and pretending. I really fell asleep. When I woke up again, we were already home. The sky was completely dark. It was still comfortable at home. I stretched on the bed. Click. Chase pushed the door and came in. Holding honey water. He sat by the bed. Awake? Get up and drink some honey water. Otherwise, you will have a headache when you get up tomorrow morning. Huh? I whined and acted cocacothusly for a while and drank a cup. Chase brought over another cup. Good girl. Drink some more to replenish your strength. I was full of question marks. But I still obediently drank it. But I ate quite full at night. I'm not tired either. Looking at Chase's undisguised predatory eyes, I instantly became awake. With a carp jump, I crawled towards the end of the bed. Guys, I'm not joking. It's faster than when I run 800 meters. As soon as I reached the end of the bed, my ankle was caught and pulled back to the original place directly. I was really on the verge of tears. Calm down. Calm down. Impulse is the devil. Let's talk nicely. Chase flipped over and pressed me under him. I didn't give up struggling. One of his legs directly suppressed my two king legs. He gently brushed aside my messy hair. His tone was almost gentle. Ours Ollie was quite popular in high school, although a little embarrassed. This is also the truth. When it comes to popularity, I really haven't been afraid of anyone. But looking at his dangerous eyes, I was so cowardly. I smiled ingratiatingly. No. It's just so-so. So-so? He smiled, paused for a moment and then said word by word. Or a so-so female sea king. For the last 3 words, I clearly heard a gritted teeth feeling. I was very angry. Who? Who on earth? Who exposed my past? Who said that? I blurted out almost instantly. No. I mean, who is talking nonsense? How can you wrong someone? Looking at Chase's increasingly dangerous eyes, my voice became lower and lower. Husband. Let's talk nicely. Okay? Listen to my explanation. At this moment, I had to admit that I was really panicked. His continuous silence made me very uneasy. His eyes were pitch black and intense. I couldn't understand what he was thinking at all. When I was thinking about how to escape, Chase suddenly leaned down. Shoo at this moment. I finally understood how great the disparity in strength between men and women is. From probing to certainty, the air around became thinner and thinner. When I was almost seeing my great-grandmother, he finally let me go. Outside the window. It started to rain at some point. The pattering sound of the rain made the whole world quiet. Even the sound of a needle dropping on the ground was extremely abrupt. My face was about to burn up. Chase looked at me intently. I directly surrendered and closed my eyes to pretend to be dead. I heard a soft chuckle. Darling. What are you afraid of? Who's afraid? I was so ashamed and angry that I opened my eyes. Just as I was about to speak, he leaned over again. The rain falls from a height, like a naughty child. But no matter how hard it struggles, it will still fall into the embrace of the earth. I looked at him resentfully and couldn't say a word. He reached out and covered my eyes. Darling. Don't look at me like that. The temperature suddenly dropped and the cold wind poured in through the window. I shivered and my mind cleared up for a moment. I forced out 2 tears and put my hand on his burning chest. Chase. Calm down first. His voice was extremely hoarse. Darling. No way. The pattering sound of the rain outside the window covered all the sounds in the night. I stared at the slightly glaring light on the ceiling and gradually fell asleep, accompanied by the reassuring sound of rain. On a rainy day in early summer, there are always thunderclaps. I felt as if a century had passed before I was awakened by the thunder again. What I saw was Chase's handsome face. My throat was hoarse and I managed to squeeze out a few syllables. A little thirsty. He gently leaned close to my ear. Darling. Wait a moment. I was a little angry and glared at him fiercely. You'd better be. The next day, I was awakened by hunger. I opened my phone and saw that it was already 2:30 in the afternoon. I was just about to get up. Ouch, tears welled up in my eyes instantly, and I lay back down again. My whole body was as if it had been reassembled. I was sore and aching all over. I cursed Chase twice bitterly. No way. I was so hungry. I took a long time to barely sit up and casually put on Chase's white shirt. As soon as I got out of bed, my legs fell on the carpet like they had no bones. I cried out in pain. What's wrong, darling? With a burst of footsteps, Chase hurriedly ran over, still wearing an apron. When he was about to help me up, I said, "Get lost. I don't need you to help me. Look. Look. Everyone come and see. Look at this bastard. Now he looks so proper. Last night, I begged, scolded, and threatened. But it was all in vain. What's even more excessive is that he actually didn't agree to turn off the light. And he also asked me to get used to sleeping without turning off the light from now on, under the pretext that a proper amount of light helps with sleep. Bah! Helps my ass." A trace of grievance appeared on Chase's always indifferent and cold face. And there was also a hint of guilt. "Darling. It's all my fault. Let me pick you up first. Okay? The ground will be cold." I really couldn't get up by myself and didn't struggle anymore. When Chase picked me up, I still couldn't help but let out a few soft cries of pain. I saw a trace of guilt flash across Chase's face. "Darling. It must be very painful. I bought medicine. I also made your favorite preserved egg and lean meat connie. It's been kept warm and not cooled down. It's my fault. I will definitely not do this again. Darling. You can be angry. Take good care of your body first, and then hit me to vent your anger. Okay? I'm a sucker for good looks." Chase is undoubtedly good-looking in appearance. I never knew that someone could really completely grow on my aesthetic point. People say that the eyes of a lover are the eighth ocean. The most captivating thing about Chase is his eyes. He has a strong facial features, with thin lips and a high nose bridge. Originally, he has the look of a cold and aloof flower on a high peak. But he is paired with a pair of peach blossom eyes. If he looks at you gently, you can almost drown in his eyes. Sorry. I'm spineless. So now when I look at his face, most of my anger subsided, and the grievance surged up instantly. "You're really a jerk." As soon as I opened my mouth, tears fell down. Chase was in a flurry to wipe my tears. But the more he wiped, the more tears there were. He sighed and gently kissed my eyes. "Don't cry. Darling. I'm dying of heartache. I glared at him fiercely. Last night I cried almost all night. But he didn't feel heartache. Chase saw my meaning at a glance. He coughed softly a few times and spoke hesitantly. That's different. I gave him a blank look. I tell you, Chase, I'm really angry. So, I paused. Chase stared at me. His tightly clenched fist exposed his nervousness. I was extremely delighted in my heart. He always controlled me. This time I finally got on top of him. But I still pretended to be calm. Let's sleep in separate beds for half a month. You go and sleep in the guest room. I looked at his incredulous and angry but unable to speak expression. I was ecstatic inside. Does anyone understand? The serfs have risen up and are singing. After lying at home for 2 days, Annie invited me to go shopping. I thought it was okay and agreed. Zoe, how was the night when you went home? When I saw her winking at me, my face flushed instantly. She burst out laughing. Understood. Understood. I calmed down and pretended to be calm. Annie, how did you know? Didn't your husband tell you? My scalp tingled and I swallowed. Did I say something I shouldn't have said? It's not you. You got drunk and fell asleep. Everyone started talking about high school things. They all said that you and Ethan were in love with each other but had to separate because of graduation. TSK. It's as if you two are star-crossed lovers. Your husband's face was terrifyingly dark. I felt like being struck by lightning. What else did they say? Oh, right. Also, when you were in high school, many people in our school chased after you. Somehow, as the rumors spread, it became that you were stringing them along and were a female playgirl. I just wanted to explain for you. But before I could squeeze in, your husband carried you home. When he passed by me, the cold air was really gusting. But you two didn't quarrel, did you? Annie looked up and stared at me. I sat on the chair beside me, too shocked to regain my senses. No. No quarrel. Oh my God. No wonder that night almost killed me on the bed. Help. This is like drinking a vat of vinegar. This reserved man didn't even ask. Annie. I have an urgent matter. I'll leave first. I'll treat you to a meal next time. I hurriedly took a taxi. Driver. Go to CHICHI company. Between husband and wife. The most feared thing is misunderstandings. If misunderstandings are not resolved, it's like a non-healable wound, harming others and not benefiting oneself. This reserved man, Chase, didn't even ask. It doesn't matter. I will give him a step. Madame, President Shu is in a meeting. Would you like to wait in his office first? I nodded. Just as I sat down, my mother happened to call me. She got straight to the point. Zoe, did you quarrel with Xiao Xi? My temples throbbed. No. Don't lie to Mom. That kid Xiao Xi is so good. Look at your little temper. Who else can tolerate it? Even your own mother can't. There are no real conflicts between husband and wife. Come and tell Mom why you quarreled. Mom will analyze it for you. Whose real mother is this? Also, why did we quarrel? Can this be said? Do I have to tell the truth? Because he is too fierce? My good reputation will be completely ruined. So embarrassing. Why aren't you talking? I rubbed my burning face and quickly said, Oh, Mom, don't worry. We didn't quarrel. I'm in his company. We'll have a meal together later. Click, the door just opened. I quickly said, Chase is here. I'll hang up. I'll visit you in a couple of days. I looked at Chase, who had just entered. Broad shoulders. Narrow waist. Long legs. The well-tailored suit combined with his reserved man's temperament. Who understands? I stared at him with infatuation. For a while, no one spoke. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. Chase lowered his head and coughed. Zoe, why are you here? Of course, I missed you. I blurted it out without thinking. Are you feeling better? He subtly changed the topic. If I hadn't caught a glimpse of his red earlobes, I would really think he wasn't touched at all. I'm completely fine already. He still wanted to speak. Why is this person so shameless? I jumped down from the sofa and directly onto him. He instinctively put his arms around my waist. I gave him a bite. We won't mention this matter anymore. Let's turn the page. Darling. When you were angry and jealous, why didn't you ask me? Didn't you let me explain? If Annie hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known they were talking nonsense. He slightly raised an eyebrow. Is it nonsense? Looking at his half-believing look. I directly wanted to sit up and explain. He pressed me back down again. Just talk like this. I pouted. High school. It's really so long. I transferred to Ethan's school in my senior year of high school. I have been a careless girl since I was young. Social anxiety doesn't exist for me. As soon as I transferred, I got along well with them. My best friend is Annie. Later, because I was very bad at math, the teacher divided us into several groups to help each other. That's how I got to know Ethan, who was sitting in front of me. He is really very cold and good-looking. His appearance and his personality seem to have a great contrast. He has a non-aggressive and very handsome appearance. Fair-skinned, with clean and clear eyes. He is a standard handsome guy. And because he was always the top student in our school, almost everyone knew him. He is really very slow to warm up. Although we had been sitting together since the beginning of the school year, we didn't really become familiar until there were only 2 months left before the college entrance examination. I didn't realize that he liked me. Most of the time, when I was playing and joking with him, he always looked at me with a smile. At most, he pretended to hit me with a test paper. He is really very reserved and good at hiding his feelings. Until the day before the college entrance examination, there was a power outage in the school. The classroom was sweltering. Everyone was standing in the corridor, enjoying the evening breeze and looking at the distant sunset glow. He was standing right next to me. After a while, a very cute girl came over with a blushing face. Ethan, I will leave school first tomorrow. Goodbye. He lowered his eyes faintly and spoke softly. I wish you success in the college entrance examination. I looked at that girl, constantly biting her lip and clutching the corner of her clothes, as if hesitating. Suddenly she raised her head, and her eyes were astonishingly bright. Can I have a hug? I still remember her eyes to this day. From being full of hope at the beginning to after Ethan rejected her, her eyes gradually dimmed and she lowered her head. It seemed that in that instant, all her courage was gone. To be honest, I also feel quite distressed looking at it. Perhaps Ethan was also somewhat touched. Is it sympathy? I don't know. He is always taciturn. When everyone thought he wouldn't speak, he spoke softly. Sorry. I hope you can have a brilliant future. He added another sentence. I was shocked. Ethan has many pursuers. In the past, he would just say sorry and leave. But this time, I feel that he has a very subtle relationship with this girl. Later I learned that he should be thinking of himself. Secret crushes in youth rarely have a perfect ending. The girl turned and left. The quiet corridor became noisy again. The atmosphere was still a bit awkward. I laughed twice and joked, Ethan is really a heartthrob. He didn't speak or smile. He just looked at me like this, looking at me deeply. I was made uneasy by his gaze and stammered, sorry. Did I say something wrong? He suddenly took a step forward and gently hugged me as if he was very reluctant. Before I could react, he let go. I was directly stunned on the spot. Let's go. It's time for class. Let's go in. He smiled and spoke softly. From that day on, no matter how slow I am, I can feel that his feelings for me are different. Sure enough, after the college entrance examination, that night he suddenly sent a long message. From when he first met me to when he was moved and then determined his own feelings. He told everything in detail. I can't remember clearly. I only remember what he sent at the end. I like you. After being rejected by me. He said, then don't delete me. Okay? Don't affect our relationship. Okay? He really knows me well. When I notice that someone has other intentions for me, I will cut off all connections. My heart contracted and I couldn't describe the feeling at that time. Although I agreed. We definitely can't get along normally anymore. A relationship needs two people to maintain it together. When one party intentionally distances themselves, it is actually very fragile. We haven't contacted each other again. As for the female playgirl, maybe it's because of her relatively cheerful personality, or a slightly outstanding appearance. There were quite a few people who liked me in high school. But I don't know who spread the rumor and I became a female playgirl. The college entrance examination is approaching. I don't have time to deal with these messy things. But I didn't expect that rumors are terrifying. Unexpectedly, some people believed such a ridiculous rumor. Rumors stop with the wise. Word spread casually may cause consequences you can't imagine. Pulling back my thoughts, I looked at Chase's face. Why is there no expression? I tentatively said, this is all the truth. I told everything completely. I didn't hide anything at all. He sneered, sure enough. He likes you. I grinned sheepishly twice and kissed him on the lips. It's been a long time. Didn't I marry you now? He didn't speak for a long time and seemed to be thinking about something. I looked at him slightly frowning and his thin lips tightly pursed. However, he is extremely good-looking. I swallowed and secretly scolded myself for being useless. I am fearless and have a great reputation. But I am controlled by Chase. This bastard. Just as I was about to speak, a deep and serious voice sounded, Zoe. Can we hold the wedding as soon as possible? I didn't react for a moment and subconsciously let out an ah. He seemed to be amused by my reaction. When he spoke again, his voice was mixed with a faint smile. Okay. Baby? Give me a status. Huh? I was shocked. Did these words come from his mouth? I immediately sat up and reached out to touch his forehead. Was he not possessed? He raised his hand and grabbed my hand, forcing me to look into his eyes. Huh? He deliberately lowered his voice and the ending sound was slightly raised. Flirty man. I almost immediately said yes. No, I have to be a little reserved. I closed my eyes, suppressed the throbbing in my heart, and pretended to be calm. Why so sudden? Didn't we agree to hold it next year? Before he could speak, I couldn't be serious for even a second. I threw a flirtatious look, lifted his chin, and teased again. Is it because I am so charming that you are afraid that I will be seduced away? Looking at his slightly red ears, I laughed heartily and won around. Yes. I thought he wouldn't answer. Looking at his serious expression, I looked at him in astonishment. Yes. My wife is so charming. I am 5 years older than you. I am afraid of being abandoned by my wife when I am old and lose my charm. He spoke seriously again. Help. Why is this man so vindictive? Just after getting married. During a quarrel when I was unilaterally venting, I spoke without thinking and said that he was old and when he lost his charm, I would abandon him and keep a little boy toy. That day I was severely educated and established his status as a flirty man in my heart. Who knew he would remember it until now? Pulling back my thoughts, I was still a little happy. I looked at him coquettously and said, will it be too tiring? The time will be very rushed. He put his arm around me naturally. Don't worry, my dear. You just need to tell me what you think. And I'll arrange everything. The most important thing for you is to be a beautiful bride happily. He was really in a hurry. In just 1 week, he obtained the consent of both parents, and made all the plans. Although we have already got married. To be honest, I am still a little nervous about having a wedding. Selecting wedding rings, wedding dresses, wedding candies, and choosing invitations. All these are telling me that the wedding is getting closer and closer. Except for being nervous. I am not tired at all. But Chase has been busy for a whole month. When there is still 1 week left before the wedding, Ethan suddenly sent me a message asking to meet me. I was thinking about how to refuse when he sent another message. Zoe. I'm going abroad and may not come back. Let's meet one last time. I have mixed feelings. For Ethan, I not only feel sorry, but also guilt and gratitude. Especially with the blessing of the youth filter. The words of refusal seemed to be stuck in my throat. I turned off my phone, nestled on the sofa, and sighed softly. There are indeed some things I haven't told Chase. After the third mock exam, the school gave us 2 days off. Annie and I made an appointment to have a meal together. There was a cool breeze blowing. It was a rare comfort in early summer. The restaurant is not far from our homes. And it's still early. So we decided to walk home. After we parted, I walked slowly on the road. A rustling sound behind me made me turn around suddenly. There was a dark figure squatting in the roadside bushes. Judging from the figure, it was a man. He was muttering something incomprehensible. When our eyes met, my hair stood on end. Do you believe it? When people are in great danger, they have a strong intuition. I glanced at the wine bottle in his hand. My phone was in my backpack and I couldn't take it out. Without hesitation, I ran forward. It's not far from my home, so there is a chance to escape. My mind went blank. There were only the whistling wind, and my panting like a bellows in my ears. Perhaps I underestimated the strength of an adult man. Or perhaps I overestimated the ability of a just adult girl like me. I was dragged by my hair into an alley. When the sharp pain came, I was almost desperate. His foot was firmly stepping on my hand. Stinking woman. You still dare to run. Give me your money. At that time, I was a little relieved because I had money. But when he rummaged through my school bag and took all my money, his cloudy eyes looked at me, sizing me up back and forth. He smiled. This smile is a nightmare that I will never forget. Disgusting and lewd. Stinking woman. Quite charming. When he pounced on me, I used all my strength to scratch, bite, or claw. I would rather die. It was at this moment that Ethan came. The teenager against the light still had the unique slenderness of a teenager. His slightly messy shirt and familiar and handsome face had a ruthlessness I had never seen before. He punched the drunkard in the face with all his strength. His eyes were red. It seemed that he couldn't hear my voice. Without exaggeration, I felt that he was going to beat him to death. I stumbled to my feet and staggered over. This scumbag deserved to die. But Ethan couldn't have any stain because of him. Just when I was about to walk over and grab him, I watched helplessly as the drunkard, with his last strength, thrust the broken half of the wine bottle into Ethan's abdomen, and then fainted. Blood stained the teenager's white shirt and also my eyes. I rushed over and hugged Ethan, who had fallen. With my blood-stained hands, I couldn't stop the bleeding wound. Zoe. Don't be afraid. I'm here. He took a few deep breaths, and raised his hand to touch my face. I called the police. Don't be afraid. I was covered in sweat and woke up suddenly. The broken wine bottle, blood, the teenager, and the hideous smile seemed like they were just yesterday. In the end, fortunately, the drunkard just fainted. Ethan didn't have to bear any legal responsibility, and was interviewed by major TV stations. Perhaps because of the injury. The drunkard was very weak. Ethan's wound wasn't deep. After being bandaged, he could be discharged. My parents were extremely grateful to Ethan and brought many tonics. They even wanted to adopt Ethan as their godson. But Ethan strongly refused. And my father always felt indebted to Ethan. After continuously giving 2 large projects worth tens of millions to the Shen family, he still kept giving until Ethan's father came to visit and then stopped. I remember when Ethan came out after being bandaged. When I saw his pale face, tears were about to well up. He smiled gently, stretched out his hand as if he was going to touch my head, but then gently patted my shoulder. Don't cry. I'm fine. Take the exam well. He looked up again. Is your hand okay? I stretched out my left hand wrapped like a zongzi and pretended to be relaxed to ease the atmosphere. It's fine. It just looks a bit ugly. After looking at each other, we couldn't help but laugh, bringing my thoughts back. I still couldn't refuse Ethan. But I must tell Chase about this matter. I went upstairs and knocked on the door of Chase's study. What's wrong? My dear. Are you sleepy? Can you go to sleep first? I'll come to you after I finish my work. I hugged Chase's waist and buried my face in his chest. Taking a deep breath. The faint mint smell on him made me feel at ease. I told him everything about Ise and sending me a message asking me to go out. To my surprise, Chase agreed without much consideration and didn't show any sign of jealousy or sulking. I looked at him in surprise. He kissed my mouth. Thank you, Zoe, for still telling me. I'm very happy. My dear, I don't want you to feel wronged about anything after marrying me. You are yourself first. And then you are my wife. No matter what. I support all your decisions and I will always be behind you. When I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes earlier, Afan had already arrived. He waved at me. After sitting down for a while, neither of us spoke. I licked my lips and was about to ease the awkward atmosphere. You are going abroad? After saying that, I wished I could slap myself. What kind of question was that? Afan spoke softly. Yes. To the company in the UK. The atmosphere froze again. I chuckled twice and then spoke. Are you going with your girlfriend? Oh my God. Where is my wisdom? It seems that my mouth has just grown. He picked up his coffee and took a sip. Then spoke again. I don't have a girlfriend. That's the daughter of a partner. We just happened to meet. He paused, seemingly self-mocking. She insisted on following. You almost took her for my girlfriend. Looking at your congratulatory face, I was despicable enough not to deny it, thinking that maybe you would change your mind. But looking at your sincere face wishing me well, I suddenly felt it was meaningless. But I didn't know you were actually married. I quietly lowered my head and listened to him ramble on and on. I didn't know what to say. I only had apologies and guilt. Sorry. In the end, except for these 3 words, I couldn't say anything else. But he smiled very relieved. Zoe, you don't have to be sorry. You just don't like me. You didn't do anything wrong. He got up and hugged me. It was very light, and he let go quickly. Zoe, you must be happy. I couldn't see the cup in front of me anymore. I didn't dare to look up and could only speak in a low voice. Ethan, you must be happy too. He left. I looked at his back and tears also slid down. I silently thought in my heart, Ethan must be extremely happy. But if there is a next life, don't meet me again. The day before the wedding, Chase's friend invited him out for a drink. I was very bored. I wanted to go but was embarrassed to ask. I looked at him longingly. When he was tying his tie, he suddenly spoke. His voice incredibly gentle. Zoe, quickly change your clothes. I want you to accompany me. Okay. Chase, who was originally introverted, is now getting better and better at expressing his feelings. From time to time, he says a love word. I quickly made myself presentable, pushing open the door of the private room. There were successive cheers. Little sister-in-law. So clingy to brother Ci? That's right. Most of them are Chase's neighbors. Because of family cooperation, they more or less know each other. I didn't show any expression on my face, but I couldn't control my face from getting hot. Chase walked over and gently kicked Fang. Who was making the most noise? It's me who can't be separated from her. Oh, the sound was so loud that it seemed the private room would be lifted. I secretly pinched Chase's waist, and he took me into his arms in reverse. Fang was drunk. He pulled Chase and complained with a runny nose and tears. Brother Ci, I'm so miserable. I'm only 22 years old, and I'm being forced to start a family. Those old people in my family are now only thinking about having grandchildren and don't care about whether I live or die. Brother Ci, looking at Fang's desperate face. I suppressed a smile and secretly took out my phone and took a video. Chase directly pulled away to the side and said sharply, You have always been relying on your family. Fang covered his chest with a look of great pain. Just as he was about to speak, he was choked and started coughing. Everyone laughed. Perhaps because he was unconvinced. Fang suddenly spoke to me. Little sister-in-law. You are also laughing at me. When you are urged to have a baby, I will definitely laugh back. Hey. Picking on the soft persimmon. Right? Just as I was about to speak, I heard Chase's voice. She won't. The voice was very faint, but full of conviction. Fang let out a howl and hugged the person next to him and started wailing again. On the way back, I suddenly remembered Fang's words. I seem to have never considered having a baby. After thinking for a while, I still spoke. Husband, don't you want a child? Chase directly laughed. He turned sideways and rubbed my hair. It's not that. I just think that a child is not a necessity for two people. It is more like a natural product of the development of love. Moreover, most of the risks of having a child are borne by women. So I think it's better for you to decide this issue. I hugged his arm. Chase, you are so kind. Darling. You don't have to have any concerns. I will communicate with my parents. In short, everything is up to me. On the day of the wedding, Chase seemed to be even more nervous than me. I teased with a smile. You are so unpromising. He gave me a glance and surprisingly didn't speak. When saying the groom's vows, Chase's voice was as faint as ever. But it was so faint that it made people feel extremely resolute. After exchanging rings, I didn't miss seeing his slightly reddened eyes. At night, when unpacking the wedding gifts, I unpacked a special gift. It was an amulet from a very spiritual temple, and a happy wedding, without a signature. The temple is located on a big mountain with long stone steps. A very popular celebrity couple that I like announced their marriage when I was in high school and showed this amulet from the temple. At that time, I was very excited and grabbed my deskmate's arm and shook it back and forth. I said, this guy likes her. This amulet not only needs to be climbed step by oneself, but whether you can get it also depends on fate. I envy this girl so much. Perhaps at that time, the speaker was unintentional, but the listener was intentional. I put it in a box. That is very important to me. And my heart couldn't calm down for a long time. At night, I tossed and turned and couldn't sleep. Perhaps Chase felt it. He turned over and hugged me. The familiar and gentle voice in the darkness calmed me down. Zoe. What's wrong? I was silent for a while, and told Chase all the things I had hidden before. Surprisingly, after Chase heard it, the joy in his voice couldn't be hidden at all. He kissed the corner of my mouth. Dear. I know. In the darkness, I looked at him in shock. He raised his hand and covered my eyes. Ethan invited me and told me. Zoe, I'm very sorry that I didn't meet you and protect you earlier. You once asked me why I held the wedding so early. Now I tell you that it's because I'm not confident. When I heard about your days and nights together, I was really scared. In any case, your experiences are irreplaceable. Later, I was always waiting for you to tell me everything. I'm really happy that you can tell me. Thank you. Zoe. Thank you for liking me. I couldn't say anything. I took the initiative to kiss his lips. Along with the bitterness of tears, I completely said goodbye to the past. Sir, aren't you going in? The wedding is about to start soon. The restaurant staff looked at a well-dressed, extremely handsome man who had been staring for a long time at photos of the bride and groom outside the door. She couldn't help but go over and remind him. This man nodded slightly and smiled warmly. No need. I'm going to the airport soon. In the car, this man looked out of the window and thought silently. There was a look of determination in his eyes. Zoe. In the next life, I must pester you earlier. He didn't tell Zoe that when he invited Chase out. He had originally planned to snatch Zoe back regardless of the consequences. But when he saw the gentle and loving look in Chase's eyes that couldn't be ignored when he mentioned Zoe, and remembered the shining light in Zoe's eyes when she saw Chase, he suddenly gave up. He just told Chase that if he didn't treat Zoe well, He would definitely come back at all costs. The person who trapped me in my youth never looked back at me. But I still hope he is happy.